guys, welcome back to the Psalms to God YouTube channel. For those who are new, I'm Ree and I really love all things journaling. So, over the past year, I have been journaling in a daily devotional journal here called the Woman of God Journal. I've been doing studies on women of God and putting them in this particular journal. But before I started this journal, I had a series on this channel called Breakfast and Bible, and I used to post videos about women of God and topics that pertain to women and our relationship with God and what God says about being a woman of God. And that is in a separate notebook that I was using for the channel. But before I started that series, I was still doing journaling entries in my war binder, which I have videos of my war binder up on the channel. And in those videos, well, not in the videos necessarily, but in those journals, there are also some journal entries where I studied a particular woman, or I did maybe like lists of like traits that pertain to women, or maybe I did a study on like singleness or on marriage or something like that. But essentially, I have information about what it means to be a woman of God and journal entries across multiple journals. And there is no real organization except for a database that I created that basically kind of links them together where I can kind of like control F. I basically took pictures of all of my notebooks and kind of posted them and put like some tags on them so that I could like search them. Um that may be a video in and of itself, but basically that is the closest thing I have to being able to find these entries. I'm not able to go into my library and just pull a notebook and be like, this is all of the information I have about what it means to be a woman of God. And so over the summer, I really wanted to compile this information into one notebook. And that led to a scattered mind up here because I had a lot of different thoughts. I started thinking about one, what kind of notebook am I going to put this in? What notebook is going to be big enough to fit this in? How many pages is it going to take? How am I going to even know that up front? And then I also started thinking about accessibility. I feel like I've done a lot of studying in this, and I wanted to be able to share it with other people, particularly you guys, because you guys tune in and watch my videos and you're interested in similar things. And so I wanted to be able to create something that I could give to others, unlike this journal, which has, for instance, like gratitude lists and prayer lists, which are personal to me. Um, I was like, how do I create something that I can give to others? And I started trying to do that. And I actually have something here. This is sort of a sneak peek of things that are going to come, but I have this binder. I'm actually kind of grateful that the that the lighting is kind of skewing this because that means it's not really spoilery. But I bought this kind of binder, and I have dot grid paper that has holes in it. That way I can add to and take out. And I can keep adding paper as necessary. And I started copying out some of the studies that I was doing. And I had them in this journal, and I was going to try to figure out how to scan these pages and create a PDF book for you guys. Now, as much as I really like the pages that I came up with in here, I started having a huge problem translating things because what I realized is that journaling is personal. I knew it was personal, but I didn't realize how personal it is. Journaling is therapeutic. The process of journaling itself is part of what helps me. Taking the time to stop and think about it and write it out is part of the process. And as I was going through this, I kept seeing studies where they talk about the fact that physically taking notes does something different in your brain than typing notes or just listening. You learn better when you write things out yourself. And that means that if you want the benefits of journaling, you have to journal yourself. You have to write the information down yourself. You writing the Bible verse down is different than me writing it and you appreciating the artisticness of how I wrote it. And as I was going through and trying to write out the studies, I realized also my studies shift and go based on how God is speaking to me. When I read a passage, the parts that I drill down into are because that's where God is leading me. But he may be trying to tell you something different, or he may be trying to bring out a different message from that same verse that is more personal to you. And so if I'm writing, even if I'm writing a question for you to write the answer to in this journal page, it may not be the question that God was trying to ask you. It's the question that God was trying to ask me. And so I was like, I don't think I can create a resource or a journal for other people because of how I do it and how my brain works and how I think about journaling. Which brings me to this video. What I actually ended up deciding is that we should have a journaling hour here on the channel. Um, Part of the reason I think people struggle with journaling, well, there's two reasons I think people struggle with journaling. One is I think people let themselves get intimidated by what they see online. And I do want to talk about that in a second, so we're going to put a pin in that. But the other thing is not making time to do it. So I decided that starting sometime in this month, I don't know when, maybe next Friday, maybe the next Friday, but sometime in this month or the beginning of October, every Friday at 8 p.m., we're going to have a journaling hour. I'm going to be online. Hopefully, you will be online and we will journal together. You can ask questions. You can follow along and do the same kind of journaling system that I'm doing and journal on the same topic. Or you can do your own thing and just know that other people are journaling with you. You can share your thoughts and how you journal, questions, etc., etc. But we're going to set aside the time to journal. So that is where I will be journaling through this encyclopedia of women that I had come up with, and I will be showing it to you guys as I'm doing it. And if you want to do the same thing, you can. If that time period does not work for you, that's okay. It's YouTube. The videos will be online. You can go back and look at it whenever you want to. And, you can add comments and I will come back and try to answer your comments when I see them. So that is what has come out of this. Now, that thing that we stuck a pin in, the intimidation factor, I do realize that I am one of the people who likes pretty journals, that I have a tendency to use a lot of different pens, a lot of color. I use stickers in my journal. Sometimes I doodle, but I'm not the most artistic, which is also why I understand that kind of feeling of um, like an intimidation. I see people who actually draw pictures in their journal and I'm like, that is so beautiful. I wish I could put that kind of art in my journal. But that would take me all day and I don't have the time for that. And it also it gives me anxiety when I know I have to draw, which is why I use stickers. I've had people tell me, they're like, well, I feel like you should just draw it. I feel like the stickers, someone actually told me they thought that the stickers take away from it. Um, but I personally become intimidated and have anxiety around knowing that I need to add artwork to my journal. And so I just use the stickers because I can stick them in and I don't have to think about it. For some of you, that may give you anxiety. You may just want just minimalist. You just want pen and paper. You may just want pencil and paper. You may want black all through. You may want one color. Whatever works for you, is perfectly fine. And it is just as beautiful, just as valid. The idea is to get something that you enjoy working with, something that does not require a lot of anxiety. Like, I mean, as a believer in the Most High, we are not supposed to have anxiety, we're not supposed to have fear. It should be a therapeutic process. And if you find yourself, you know, struggling and getting too focused in on what pens you should have or what, you know, color you should use, then throw all that out and just go to just just pen and paper. Um, you don't have to have the works. You don't have to have different pens. Just find a system that works for you. And I wanted to put that disclaimer out there because if you're following along with me, you will see me switching pens and adding in the stickers and all of these things. But I wanted to, I will remind when I do the videos that you don't have to do these types of things. But I do find I guess like a need to reiterate this in my videos and to remind you that the purpose of the journal is for you to dig deep, for you to learn, for you to make your connection with God, for you to think through things and to relax your mind and all of those types of things. And so, whatever helps you to do that, that's what helps you to do that. At the risk of prolonging the video, I do want to close the video out with a couple of comments on supplies for this because I think the next video will be me jumping into the journaling hour. So if you are new around here or you're new to journaling, you're probably like, what do I need to follow along? And so that I do want to address briefly. So we're going to talk about like um, biblical supplies like Bible and like Bible software, things like that. And then we'll talk about the notebook, the journal itself, and then we will finish up with kind of like the art supplies like pens, stickers, markers, whatever. And the that last point will be the optional things. So the first thing that you will need, that is the most important thing, is a Bible. It is a Bible study after all. So you will need your Bible and probably some sort of Bible study content. So I have used uh, Bible Gateway, I've used Blue Letter Bible, and I've also used eSword. eSword is new to me. I like it. It may be a little overwhelming because there's a lot of options in it. It also costs money if you have a Mac, which I do. I think it's free in Windows, so if you have Windows, go for it. But all of these things allow you access to multiple translations of the Bible, which is very helpful when you're studying the word. And like Blue Letter Bible has an interlinear feature. I assume eSword does too. I just, like I said, I'm not quite as familiar with it because I've only recently started using it. But that allows you to see the original language. And one of the things I love about Blue Letter Bible is that you can see where the word is used elsewhere in the text. So if you're reading, for instance, love is patient, love is kind, you can go into the interlinear version. You can find the Greek word that is being used to get the word love. And then you can see where that word is used elsewhere in the text in the New Testament, and then you can compare the verse that you're reading here and the verse you're reading there and look at the context of the word to kind of see what it may mean in the verse that you're reading. That is another thing that I typically do when I'm studying. So you may want access to things like that on your computer while you are journaling. Of course, the next thing you will need is your journal. Um, you can do this digitally. As I mentioned, science has shown that there is a benefit to writing by hand, but there is still benefit to taking notes via typing, or even if you have some sort of tablet and you want to write on your tablet, that does make it easier to keep up with. You probably will have more digital features like Control F to search things. So I definitely understand the pros of digitally taking notes. So that is also an option. I don't personally do that, so I won't be able to help you with like software or like functionality, things that you can do in that realm, but you can still follow along and you can still do it in that manner. And I will try to help where I can, if I can. But there's also, for those of you who will be doing the physical journaling, like myself, picking a journal can be overwhelming. There are options on options on options. If you go on Amazon, there are so many brands and knockoff brands and everything for journals. You can make your own journal. You can use whatever type. You can go and get like your standard composition notebook. You could use a binder like I have this thing. It's like a 3-ring binder. um you can use anything you want for writing your notes, whatever works for you. There are pros and cons to each thing. um I don't want to sit here and list out every single pro and con. I will probably talk about some of those things as we get into the journaling hours, but I don't want to make this video an hour, if that makes any sense. And you guys know that I could talk that long and do it, but just, kind of an overview of things that I look at when I get a journal. So I prefer the B5 size. So this journal is B5 for reference. I don't know if using my head is actually of any help to you guys, but this is the size up against my head. It's smaller than an 8.5 by 11. So this is like 9. I think this is something like 9 inches by like 7. I think it's like 7 by 9 in inches. That's the rough. Oh, Allie. Sorry, that would be my cat Allie. She hasn't made a cameo on the channel in a while, but yes, 7 by 9. A5 is the most popular journal size in the bullet journaling community. It's a little smaller than this. I don't have an A5 notebook for comparison, but it's just slightly, ever so slightly smaller. They're easier to find because it is the standard in the bullet journaling industry. It's a little harder to find B5, but this is a Scribbles That Matter. I don't know if you can see the STM in the spine, but this is a Scribbles That Matter journal. And I know Archer and Olive also sells B5. I have never used one of their notebooks, but they seem to be a fan favorite within the bullet journaling community. There's also Leutstrom. I will type that out in the box below because the spelling throws me every single time. The letters don't make sense when I look at them and it doesn't sound. I would not pronounce it the way that I just pronounced it if I did not watch YouTube videos and hear other people pronounce it that way. I'm still not fully convinced that's the correct way to pronounce it. But they also make journals. I think they make B5 and A5 options. There's also like square journals. Archer and Olive make square uh journals. Really lots of options. Again, you can use lined paper, you can use dot grid paper, you can use plank paper, whatever works for you. I personally use dot grid because it helps me to be organized without having all of the clutter of the lines. This, as well as Archer and Olive, are on 160 GSM paper. For those who are new to the journaling community, that is a way of measuring the thickness of paper. Most American paper is done in pounds because, like everything, we have to be different and use different measurements. So you will see some paper listed in pounds, and you will see some paper listed in GSM. It talks about the thickness. If you're seeing GSM, 160 is about standard if you're going to be using heavy pens. Heavy pens would include thick brush pens, like if you're going to use Tombows, if you're going to use Karen markers or the Ecoline brush pens. um if you want to do like painting and stuff in your paper, you want like a bit of a thicker paper, so you're going to want to get the 160 GSM or so. I've seen a couple of notebooks that are like 100 GSM or 120 GSM. I think that's where Lloydstrom is, and it's a little thinner. You're going to get a little bit more ghosting with that thin of a paper. But if you're just using gel pens and you know, ballpoint pens and things like that, you're not going to have any problems with that. So you could use the 100 GSM or the 120. If you're doing pound paper, like if you're making your own journal, like how I've shown on my channel that I make my own journals sometimes, I used to use 60 pound to 80 pound paper. So that will give you kind of the same as that 160 GSM where you don't get any ghosting. Now, if you use alcohol ink markers, I do want to caveat that's always going to bleed through. I have never found paper thick enough to withstand alcohol ink. You're going to want to do that on a separate page and glue it in because it's just going to bleed no matter what you do. So, but as long as you're using normal pens, like water-based pens, 120, I mean, 120, 160 should be sufficient to not bleed through. And like I said, if you're going to keep it simple and minimalist, you can go as thin as printer paper and it'll be fine. Um, 32 HP 32 premium paper is also pretty great if you are making your own notebook. So those are a couple of things. Also within that is the color. I do want to mention Scribbles That Matter is very white in terms of the page, which is nice if you use whiteout tape, which is another thing you may want if you are doing pen, um, so that when you use this, it doesn't show up. I have a couple of Lloydstrom journals, and they are like a cream colored paper, more like a beige, kind of like when you do a resume. If you're older like me and you've had to print out on a resume paper, it's like that color. And so this doesn't, like, it stands out. It doesn't actually help you. Um so that's one thing to think about when you're buying paper or when you're buying a journal. Is it, do you want bright white or do you want that kind of cream color? You may like the cream colored paper because bright white is bright on your eyes. Also, I'm sorry if the lighting is doing things. um, I'm getting a lot of sun coming in right now. As I told you guys, I'm still working on lighting and location. So bear with me for the next couple of videos as I kind of test out different things. But I hope to improve that as we go forward. Back on the topic of journals, I have gone back to making my own journals. So please look forward to the video of me talking about this. I did not film myself actually making this journal, but I will be using a custom made journal and I'm going to sneak preview it so that you'll want to watch the video. But I made my own journal in the style of the Archer and Olive Scribbles That Matter moleskin styles of journals. I just didn't round the edges here, which I'll talk about in the video. So I will be talking about this guy. I'm excited. This is what I will be using in the video. Um, yes, so that's a little bit about journals. Then you have your actual supplies. I typically do most of my journaling with a ballpoint pen. Ballpoint pens generally across brands look the same. If you pick up a Bic and write a couple of pages and then you decide you don't like that pen or you lose that pen, and then you pick up the random ballpoint pen that you got from XYZ company that donated it to you or gave it to you at some fair, it's gonna look the same. You're not gonna be able to tell that you've switched pens, unlike if you use like a gel pen or a like a calligraphy pen or a fine liner where the colors don't match up exactly. It's a lot easier to kind of blend them together. Also, because you're writing a lot, you're gonna use the ink, and you don't want to have to buy 20 $20 pens to fill up your journal. So I usually use ballpoint pens. They come in a pack. You can usually get a pretty decent amount for a pretty cheap price. Some of my favorite brands of ballpoint pens would be Bic, Pentel. I also have a Papermate ballpoint pen. here, this one is erasable. So if you're interested in being able to erase and not have to use the whiteout, this is also an option. This also came in a pack. I think this, if I remember right, I got maybe like 6 or 7 of these for like $8 or something. Don't quote me on those prices, but they weren't that expensive. It was like less than $1 per pen. So you can get that for basic writing. If you do want to get a little more creative and you want to do like headers and like highlighting, you could get highlighters. There's your basic Bic makes highlighters, Sharpie makes highlighters. Then there are, of course, the Zebra mild liners. You could use brush pens. There are a lot of different types. I have videos on pens, so I don't want to get too into the weeds of this, but there are fine liners, there's gel pens. You don't necessarily need all the colors. It depends on you and your style. If you just have art supplies laying around, you can use them. If you want to get a set that has all of the colors of the rainbow so that you can choose the color as you go, you can do that as well. If you don't want color, or maybe you just want one color throughout the whole thing, you maybe just buy the one pen. I know things like the Tombos, you can buy one pen at a time. um some gel pens you can buy one at a time as well. um but you could do something like that and just have that one pen that you're using to highlight things or to, put notes off to the side. You could use things like colored pencils or crayons if that suits you. There's also, of course, the Crayola Super Tips that double both as just like markers or as brush lettering pens. Um, Lots of options there. Again, all optional. You don't necessarily have to have those things, but they're things you may want. They're things that I will probably end up incorporating into my journal. So you'll probably see me using them as we go through these journaling sessions. Lastly, would be still in this artistic space is if you want to doodle versus if you want to use stickers. Personally, I use stickers because I experience anxiety around doodling. I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I'm not the most artistic. It's not that I can't draw at all, but when I do draw, it tends to take a long time. So, for instance, if we're spending an hour journaling and I want to put an art piece in, it would probably take me the whole hour to do the art. And so that takes away from the time. Like I don't have time to spend hours and hours just drawing the art because I want to focus on the content. And so for me, that's why I do the stickers, because it's easy to just stick them in there and forget about them and not have any sort of anxiety around that. But when I do doodle, I try to keep it simple. I am planning to, for my 2026 daily devotional, which will be like this, but a different topic. I do plan to do hand drawn art, but I plan to keep it simple and do things like hearts, ladybugs, fireflies. I haven't actually, that may not actually be the art that I put in that journal, but I try to keep it simple so it's something I know I can draw and I'm not like freaking out about it. So you may want to think about that before you start your journal. You may want a theme to make it cohesive. Um, or you may want to switch it up frequently because you get bored. That's up to you. But if you're going to be doing doodles, like I said, you may want some colored pencils, markers, crayons, things like that for the doodling. If you're going to use stickers, then you'll want to have your stickers that you're going to use. Again, these are things that span the spectrum for your budget. You can get stickers from the Dollar Tree and you can find stickers online that are outrageously priced. It really just depends on you and what you want. Um, and you don't have to use them at all if you don't want to. I just wanted to share a couple of things that I will be using and that you will see me use in the journal so that they don't kind of take you by surprise when we get into the journaling hour. But I look forward to this experience and I hope that you guys will tune in, that you will join, that you will share how you journal, that you will ask questions, that you will share with your fellow journalers, your fellow believers. And, you know, even for those of you who are not believers that may have stumbled upon this video by accident, I hope you will join too. And I mean, you can journal about whatever you want to. But I think journaling is a healthy thing for all people. So, welcome to the journaling club. See you guys soon.